Seneca said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." You feel the heat before you understand it. A careless remark lands like a spark on dry grass. Your chest tightens, your jaw hardens. Racing thoughts begin assembling a case against the person standing before you. Every insult you have endured, every slight you thought you had forgotten, every moment you felt underestimated or treated unfairly seems to return at once. The present disappears. Now you are no longer responding to one event. You are responding to years of accumulated hurt. Your mind urges you to speak immediately. It tells you that silence is weakness, that restraint is passivity, that unless you defend yourself at once, others will take advantage of you. It suggests that anger is proof of strength and that the loudest response will restore your dignity. But the voice demanding instant action is rarely the voice of wisdom. It is fear wearing armor. In a few seconds, you may say something that changes the direction of a relationship. You may make decisions made too hastily, destroy trust that took years to create, or commit yourself to a confrontation you never truly wanted. By the time calm returns, the words have already left you. The damage has already begun. You stand among the remains of your own reaction, wondering how such a small event became such a disaster. This is how emotions destroy a life. Not always dramatically, not always through one great collapse. More often, they do it through repetition. One impulsive answer, one moment of lost composure, one decision made under fear, one opportunity abandoned because anxiety whispered that you were not ready, one relationship poisoned because resentment was allowed to speak every day. One dream surrendered because indecision became a habit. The destruction happens quietly, then suddenly. A person may spend years blaming circumstances, enemies, setbacks, criticism, or bad fortune, without realizing that the greatest source of overall chaos has been living inside him. His inner world remains untrained, and so every external event becomes a command. Praise makes him burst with pride. Condemnation throws him into misery. A delay fills him with doom. An insult steals his peace. A setback becomes defeat. A disagreement becomes war. He believes he is reacting to life, but often he is merely obeying impulses he has never learned to examine. This is the deeper struggle. You may possess intelligence, strength, ambition, and the desire to change one's life, yet still become your own worst enemy because you cannot govern what rises within you. You may have noble plans, but anger ruins your relationships. You may have clear goals, but fear creates indecision. You may have talent, but impatience leads to lost opportunities. You may have love in your heart, but attachment turns love into control. Without emotional mastery, your gifts become unstable. Power without restraint becomes destruction. Passion without discipline becomes recklessness. Sensitivity without clarity becomes emotional exhaustion. Confidence without reflection becomes arrogance. And peace without boundaries becomes vulnerability to manipulation. The Stoics did not teach that emotions make you weak. They understood that emotions are part of being alive. They arrive as messengers, carrying information about your perceptions, wounds, desires, and long-held beliefs. But a messenger is not a king. An emotion may enter your inner world, but it does not deserve the throne merely because it speaks loudly. Anger may say that something is unjust. Fear may say that danger is near. Sadness may reveal that something mattered. Anxiety may reveal a mind living too far in the future. Jealousy may expose an insecurity you have refused to face. Resentment may point toward a boundary that should have been set long ago. Every emotion can offer insight, but none should govern without being questioned. That is the difference between the trained and the untrained mind. The untrained mind feels anger and becomes angry in every thought, word, and action. It cannot create distance between the feeling and the self. The trained mind observes anger arising. It notices the breath shortening, the body preparing for conflict, the old assumptions returning. It does not suppress what it feels, but neither does it surrender control. It says, anger is present, not anger is who I am. This simple separation is the beginning of sovereignty. You cannot master what you refuse to observe. You cannot tame what you pretend does not exist. You cannot cultivate inner strength by condemning every feeling that makes you uncomfortable. Mastery begins with awareness. You stop long enough to observe the fire before throwing more wood upon it. You think before you speak. You assess the event before allowing your interpretation to become fact. You ask whether the slight was intentional, whether your assumptions are sound, whether the person truly meant what you believe they meant, or whether exhaustion, fear, pride, and old emotional pain have distorted your perception. Most conflict begins long before words are exchanged. It begins in the meaning you place upon events. A stranger overlooks you, and you interpret it as disrespect. A companion needs distance, and you interpret it as rejection. Someone offers criticism, and you interpret it as condemnation. A plan changes unexpectedly, and you interpret it as disaster. The event may be simple. The story you create around it becomes outrageous. And because you believe the story, your body reacts as if the story were entirely true. This is why emotional mastery requires you to become curious. Curious about your reaction. Curious about the fears beneath it. Curious about the long-held beliefs that shape what you see. Curious about why certain words wound you while others pass without effect. Curiosity creates space. Judgment closes it. When you immediately condemn yourself for feeling anger, fear, or sadness, you add a second wound to the first. Now you are not only angry, you are ashamed of being angry. You are not only afraid, you believe fear proves a weak character. This creates inner turmoil. The emotion becomes buried rather than understood. What is buried does not disappear. It waits. Then it returns during sudden crises, difficult conversations, or moments of emotional exhaustion, often with far greater power. To avoid being judgmental does not mean excusing immoral actions or refusing responsibility. It means looking directly at what is happening without exaggeration or self-deception. You can say, I lost composure. You can say, I acted from fear. You can say, my response was unsound. You can say, I allowed resentment to govern me. There is strength in honest reflection. Condemnation says, I am hopeless. Reflection says, this habit is harming me, and I can train differently. One imprisons you inside shame. The other creates a turning point. Many people resist this kind of honesty because the ego wants to remain innocent. It would rather refute every criticism, blame every opponent, and carry around old explanations than admit that its own reaction created much of the suffering. But the Stoic path is not concerned with preserving an image. It is concerned with becoming free. Freedom requires the courage to look into the mirror without flattery. Perhaps the person before you behaved badly. Perhaps the insult was real. Perhaps what happened was unfair. Emotional mastery does not require you to pretend otherwise. But another person's weak character does not require you to imitate it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Consider how much power is contained in that sentence. Someone lies to you, and the temptation is to lie in return. Someone humiliates you, and the temptation is to seek their humiliation. Someone raises their voice, and you feel compelled to become louder. Someone acts without honor, and suddenly you are willing to compromise your own honor merely to defeat them. But if their behavior controls yours, have you truly defeated them? Or have they transformed you into a reflection of themselves? Revenge often promises satisfaction, but delivers attachment. It keeps you connected to the person you claim to despise. Their actions continue to govern your energy, your decisions, your conversations, and your inner voice. You carry them around everywhere. They stand beside you while you work. They enter your thoughts during silence. They shape your plans. They become the unseen target behind your effort. You may achieve success, yet still feel no prosperity because your life has been built around proving something to an enemy. This is disempowering. You are no longer living from intention. You are living from reaction. The Stoic understands that the highest victory is not forcing another person to suffer. It is refusing to let their disorder enter your character. You may set boundaries. You may create separation. You may defend yourself. You may respond firmly to manipulation or immoral actions. But you do not have to become filled with resentment. You do not have to release cruelty into the world merely because cruelty reached you first. This does not mean becoming passive. Passivity allows harm to continue because fear avoids necessary confrontation. Restraint is different. Restraint chooses the proper response at the proper time for the proper reason. A restrained person can speak with force. He can leave. He can refuse. He can expose wrongdoing. He can protect the vulnerable. He can choose his battles wisely. The difference is that he acts from clarity instead of rage. His emotion may provide energy, but reason gives direction. Without direction, emotional energy is like a river breaking its banks. It moves with tremendous force, yet destroys the very ground that once sustained it. With direction, that same energy can create, protect, build, sharpen, and heal. Your task is not to become emotionless. Your task is to become capable of transforming emotional force into deliberate action. Anger can become courage. Fear can become preparation. Grief can become appreciation. Loneliness can become reflection. Dissatisfaction can become effort. Regret can become discipline. But transformation requires delay. A pause between feeling and action. A breath between insult and reply. A night between anger and decision. An honest question before condemnation. In that pause, you recover your power. At first, this space may feel unbearable. The mind wants immediate release. It believes that speaking, striking back, or making the other person understand will end the discomfort. But often the release you seek becomes a new burden. You say the cruel words, and now you must carry them. You make the rash choice, and now you must navigate its consequences. You break what mattered, and later you discover that anger lasted minutes while the damage remained for years. The emotional mind sees only the present urge. Wisdom sees the outcome. This is why patience is not merely waiting. Patience is the ability to remain present while the impulse demands escape. It is staying beside discomfort without obeying it. It is allowing the emotional wave to rise and fall while you remain on the shore, observing its movement. The wave may be powerful, but it is temporary. No emotion remains at full strength forever unless your thoughts repeatedly feed it. Anger survives through rehearsal. You replay the event, you imagine better replies, you sharpen old arguments, you create future confrontations, you interpret neutral events as further proof of disrespect. Each repetition returns energy to the flame. Soon, you are no longer angry about what happened. You are angry about what you have imagined, remembered, predicted, and carried around. Your enemy may have forgotten the event entirely, while you continue placing your own hand in the fire. This is the misery of resentment. It feels like punishment directed outward, but the pain is carried inward. To release the need to be upset with others does not mean declaring them innocent. It means refusing to injure yourself in order to preserve a case against them. You can remember the lesson without living inside the wound. You can create distance without hatred. You can understand someone's nature without allowing their nature to become your fate. You can accept that another person acted from ignorance, fear, weakness, or selfishness, and still refuse them further access to your life. Detachment is not indifference. It is seeing clearly without being dragged. A mountain does not chase every storm that strikes its face. It allows wind, rain, and thunder to pass, while remaining rooted in what it is. You must cultivate that same foundation, not hardness, rootedness. Hardness breaks when pressure becomes great enough. Rootedness bends when necessary, adapts to changing seasons, and still remains connected to something deeper. Your deepest foundation is not your mood. It is not another person's opinion. It is not success, failure, praise, or rejection. It is your character, your intention. Your personal faith and ethics will be tested whenever emotion offers an easier path than virtue. It is easy to speak of patience when no one provokes you. It is easy to speak of courage when there is no danger. It is easy to believe you possess restraint when every event moves according to your plans. The test arrives when life resists you, when criticism feels unfair, when a trusted person disappoints you, when sudden crises expose hidden fear, when someone touches the exact wound you thought had healed, when lost opportunities awaken envy, when the future becomes uncertain, when you are tired, distracted, confused, and emotionally exhausted. In those moments, philosophy must become practice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This does not mean you control every thought that first appears. It means you possess the ability to examine what appears, to decide what deserves belief, and to choose what happens next. You cannot prevent every emotional reaction. The body may respond before reason has spoken. Fear may tighten the chest. Anger may heat the face. Grief may arrive without permission. But the first movement is not the final decision. An emotion knocks. You decide whether it enters, where it sits, how long it stays, and whether it is allowed to command. This is the sovereignty of the inner world. The world outside may remain uncertain, but within yourself, you begin creating order. You stop demanding that events change before you become calm. You stop waiting for other people to behave wisely before you choose wisdom. You stop believing peace will come only after every problem has been solved. This belief is one of the great traps of life. You tell yourself, I will be calm when the conflict ends. I will feel secure when I have more. I will be confident when no one criticizes me. I will rest when every issue is resolved. But problems change shape. One ending becomes another beginning. One fear is replaced by another. If your peace depends upon the complete absence of difficulty, you will spend your entire life postponing peace. The Stoic does not wait for calm conditions. He creates calm perception. He asks, what is actually happening? Not, what does fear predict? Not, what does pride demand? Not, what does resentment want me to remember? He separates events from assumptions. This is one of the most practical forms of emotional mastery. An event occurs. Then your mind interprets it. Most suffering enters through the interpretation. Someone disagrees with you. The event, disagreement. The interpretation, they do not respect me. A plan fails. The event, the expected outcome did not occur. The interpretation, I am incapable. Everything is ruined. Someone leaves. The event, separation. The interpretation, I am unworthy of love. I will always be abandoned. A mistake is revealed. The event, an error became visible. The interpretation, I am a failure. The event may require attention, action, healing, or change, but the added judgment often creates more pain than the event itself. This does not suggest that all suffering is imaginary. Some losses are heavy. Some betrayals alter a life. Some wounds require time, support, and distance. But even then, perception determines whether pain becomes wisdom or endless destruction. You cannot always choose what you lose. You can choose what the loss teaches. You cannot always prevent defeat. You can decide whether defeat becomes your identity. You cannot command another person's loyalty. You can govern your own honor. You cannot stop change. You can learn to navigate it. The inner voice that interprets your life must therefore be trained. For many years, that voice may have repeated fear, weakness, and doom. It may have inherited long-held beliefs from people who never understood their own pain. Perhaps you learned that anger was the only way to be heard. Perhaps you learned that your own needs were shameful. Perhaps you learned that boundaries were selfish. Perhaps you learned that love required suffering without protest. Perhaps you learned that one mistake meant you were weak. Perhaps you learned that emotion should be suppressed until it vanished. But suppressed emotion does not vanish. It moves into the body. It shapes habits. It emerges through sarcasm, control, passivity, distance, compulsive behavior, or sudden rage that seems to appear from nowhere. Healing begins when you become willing to change your mind about what strength means. Strength is not refusing to feel. Strength is feeling without surrendering your values. Strength is admitting fear and still moving with intention. Strength is recognizing anger and choosing restraint. Strength is grieving without abandoning your life. Strength is hearing criticism without collapsing or attacking. Strength is knowing when to connect and when to create distance. Strength is being open enough to learn and rooted enough not to be manipulated. To master emotion, you must become attuned to what is happening before the emotional storm reaches its peak. Every emotion leaves signs. The breath changes, the muscles tighten, attention narrows. Racing thoughts accelerate. The mind begins gathering evidence for one interpretation. You stop listening, you prepare to refute, you become quick to anger. At this stage, you may believe you are thinking clearly, but often you are merely constructing a defense for what you already feel. Awareness interrupts this process. You notice the signs. You name what is happening. I feel threatened. I feel ignored. I feel embarrassed. I am afraid of losing control. I want to punish them. I am reacting to an old wound. Naming the emotion does not make it disappear, but it reduces confusion. What remains unnamed often feels limitless. What is named can be observed. What is observed can be understood. What is understood can be governed. This is why reflection is essential. Not endless dwelling on problems, but disciplined examination. At the end of a difficult day, ask, where did I lose composure? What belief shaped my reaction? What was within my control? What did I overlook? Did I speak from clarity or from hurt? Did my action protect what mattered or merely defend pride? What would restraint have looked like? What will I practice when this situation returns? These questions sharpen the mind. They turn experience into training. Without reflection, you repeat. With reflection, repetition becomes discipline. A person may wait for a miraculous change, but emotional mastery is rarely built through miracles. It is created through small acts practiced until they become character. One pause, one honest answer, one boundary, one apology, one decision not to continue an argument. One moment of choosing silence over an unsound response. One evening spent assessing the day rather than escaping it. Over time, these actions form a new inner foundation. You become less reactive, not because the world has become gentler, but because you have become more aware. You no longer treat every insult as a defining event. You no longer allow every slight to become a target for revenge. You no longer believe every anxious thought. You no longer interpret discomfort as doom. You no longer confuse emotion with truth. This does not happen entirely at once. There will be setbacks. You will lose composure again. You will make decisions you later regret. You may return to old habits during stress. Do not use these moments as proof that change is impossible. Use them as information. A setback reveals where training is incomplete. It shows which wounds remain sensitive, which assumptions remain active, and which situations require greater preparation. The undisciplined mind turns a setback into self-condemnation. The disciplined mind turns it into insight. You may say, I failed again. A wiser voice says, now I can see the pattern more clearly. You may say, I will never change. A wiser voice says, this is difficult because it has been practiced for years. It will require effort and repetition to build something new. You may say, I should already be stronger. A wiser voice says, strength is being built in the exact struggle I wish had disappeared. Personal growth is not the absence of old impulses. It is the increasing ability to choose despite them. At first, anger may control you for days, later, hours, then minutes. Eventually, you catch it as it rises. You do not become perfect. You become present. That presence changes everything. It gives you time to think before you speak. Time to assess whether confrontation is necessary. Time to choose your battles wisely. Time to ask whether the person before you is a threat, a teacher, a wounded human being, or merely someone with a different perspective. Emotional mastery does not close the mind. It opens it. When you are no longer defending your identity at every moment, you can become curious about ideas that challenge you. You can open yourself up to ideas expressed by all kinds of people without feeling that listening is surrender. You can disagree without hatred. You can change your mind without believing you have been defeated. You can hear criticism, accept what is useful, and release what is false. You can understand another perspective without abandoning your personal faith and ethics. This requires security. An insecure person hears difference as insult. A secure person asks, "What can this teach me?" A weak character protects itself through condemnation. A strong character is capable of examination. It knows that truth does not become dangerous merely because it arrives from an unexpected voice. Sometimes the person you dislike will reveal something accurate. Sometimes the person you admire will be wrong. Sometimes your enemy will expose a weakness that your friends were too gentle to mention. Sometimes an outrageous statement will contain a small piece of insight. Wisdom does not ask only who spoke. It asks whether the statement is true. This is why you must avoid being judgmental while still possessing discernment. Judgmental thinking condemns the entire person. Discernment evaluates the action, idea, or pattern. One says, "They are worthless." The other says, "This behavior is harmful, and I will respond accordingly." One is filled with resentment. The other remains clear. This clarity allows you to set boundaries without hatred. You may tell someone, "You cannot speak to me this way." You may refuse manipulation. You may walk away from a repeated pattern. You may protect your energy, time, and own needs. You may choose separation when connection has become destructive. But the purpose is not punishment, it is order. A boundary is not a weapon. It is information about what you will and will not participate in. Some people will resist your boundaries because your passivity once benefited them. They may accuse you of changing, becoming cold, selfish, or difficult. Your personal faith and ethics will be tested here. Will guilt return you to the old pattern? Will fear of rejection make you compromise? Will you betray your own clarity to prevent someone else's discomfort? You must believe and know it within yourself that protecting your inner world is not cruelty. It is responsibility. You cannot offer your best to life while emotional chaos consumes your attention. You cannot concentrate on your calling while every conflict follows you everywhere. You cannot create prosperity while constantly surrendering energy to resentment, fear, and unnecessary confrontation. You cannot connect deeply when you are afraid to reveal your needs. You cannot build trust while anger governs your speech. You cannot soar while carrying every insult as stone. The essentials of life become visible when emotion settles. Health, character, purpose, meaningful work, honest relationships, rest, courage, contribution, faith. These matters are often overlooked because the mind is distracted by temporary dramas. A harsh word occupies more attention than a loyal companion. A failed plan overshadows years of progress. One moment of embarrassment becomes more important than the dream you have carried for decades. Emotion narrows perspective. Reflection restores it. When you step back, you begin to see that many events you called disasters were merely transitions. Many endings you resisted protected you from continuing down the wrong path. Many disappointments redirected your life toward something more honorable. Later you will realize these changes are for the best. But in the moment, the emotional mind can only see loss. This is where trust becomes necessary, not blind optimism, not pretending pain is pleasant. Trust that you can respond. Trust that you can adapt. Trust that a setback does not contain the entire future. Trust that clarity can emerge after confusion. Trust that healing can continue even when progress feels slow. Trust that you possess more inner strength than the present moment allows you to feel. Fear wants certainty before action. Life rarely offers it. If you wait until every doubt is gone, indecision will become your prison. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something else matters more. Perhaps your dream matters more. Perhaps your honor matters more. Perhaps the desire to change one's life matters more. Perhaps protecting the people you love matters more. Perhaps becoming free from your own worst habits matters more. The emotion can remain while you move. This is an essential realization. You do not have to wait to feel fearless before acting with courage. You do not have to wait to feel motivated before practicing discipline. You do not have to wait to feel calm before choosing a calm response. Action can lead emotion. The body can teach the mind. You slow your breathing, you lower your voice, you delay the reply, you stand upright. You take a walk beneath open sky. You place distance between yourself and the target of your anger. You return when your perception has widened. These are simple actions, but simple does not mean weak. A gate is simple. It still protects a city. A pause is simple. It can save a marriage, a friendship, a career, or a life. A breath is simple. It can interrupt a habit practiced for years. Do not overlook small practices because the ego wants dramatic transformation. Mastery is usually quiet. It is built when no one is watching. You may feel the urge to speak and choose silence. You may want to retaliate and choose dignity. You may feel anxiety demanding certainty and choose the next honorable step instead. No applause follows. No crowd witnesses the victory, but something within you changes. You feel the first evidence of self-trust. You discover that you are not entirely at the mercy of what you feel. You possess choice. That discovery becomes a turning point. At first, self-control may feel like restriction. You may believe you are denying yourself satisfaction. Anger wants expression. Pride wants victory. Resentment wants the other person to suffer. But later you understand that uncontrolled expression was the true restriction. It forced you to obey every impulse. It made your peace dependent on other people. It placed your future in the hands of temporary emotion. Restraint does not imprison you. It releases you. You become capable of choosing the outcome rather than merely relieving the urge. Imagine a person standing before you, speaking with contempt. Every part of you wants to answer in kind. The old pattern is ready. But now awareness arrives. You observe the heat. You hear the inner voice demanding revenge. You feel the body preparing for conflict. Then you ask, what happens if I obey this? You see the likely outcome. More anger, more words, more destruction, nothing honorable gained, so you remain still. Not because you are afraid, because you are strong enough not to be controlled. The other person may mistake your restraint for weakness. Let them. A person trained only in noise cannot always recognize quiet power. Your calm is not for their approval. It is for your own sovereignty. This is what it means to master emotions before they destroy your life. It means you stop allowing passing states to make permanent decisions. You stop allowing fear to choose your path. You stop allowing anger to speak for your character. You stop allowing anxiety to interpret the future. You stop allowing sadness to convince you that nothing good remains. You stop allowing pride to reject necessary healing. You stop allowing attachment to turn love into possession. You stop allowing resentment to decide whom you become. Emotions still visit, but they no longer own the house. You welcome what they reveal, then you decide what stays. Anger may reveal a boundary. Fear may reveal where preparation is needed. Grief may reveal love. Jealousy may reveal an unlived desire. Shame may reveal where repair is necessary. But once the message is understood, you do not continue worshipping the messenger. You act. You repair what can be repaired. You apologize where apology is honorable. You create distance where distance is necessary. You accept what cannot be changed. You concentrate on what remains within your power. Then you release the emotion's claim upon the future. This is not suppression. Suppression says, I must not feel. Mastery says, I can feel this without becoming it. Suppression creates pressure. Mastery creates movement. Suppression hides the wound. Mastery begins healing. The difference is reason, compassion, and awareness. You may need time. Some emotions carry years of history. They cannot be resolved by one sentence, one reflection, or one act of discipline. Be patient. The mountain is shaped by seasons. So are you. But patience does not mean passivity. Continue the work. Observe, reflect, correct, practice, repeat. If you fail, return. If you react, assess. If you become confused, return to what is simple. What happened? What did I assume? What is within my control? What action preserves honor? What can I release? These questions become a compass. They help you navigate inner turmoil without becoming lost inside it. Gradually, you notice changes. A criticism that once ruined several days now becomes useful information or meaningless noise. An insult that once demanded revenge now reveals the speaker's condition more than your worth. A setback that once felt like doom now becomes a problem to solve. A disagreement that once threatened connection becomes a chance to understand. Fear still speaks, but it no longer decides. Anger still rises, but it meets a trained mind. Sadness still visits, but it no longer removes all hope. You become emotionally strong, not because nothing affects you, but because nothing easily possesses you. Your inner world becomes ordered. Your energy returns. You stop leaking power through constant reaction. You stop fighting imaginary battles. You stop carrying around people who are no longer present. You stop treating every event as condemnation. You begin to live. There is more space for work, love, thought, faith, and personal growth. You can dream without anxiety immediately announcing disaster. You can connect without attachment demanding control. You can listen without preparing to refute. You can speak without needing to dominate. You can confront without hatred. You can walk away without resentment. This is prosperity of the soul. It may not always be visible, but it changes everything you touch. A calm mind makes better decisions. A disciplined person protects opportunities. A reflective person learns from mistakes. A patient person sees possibilities that anger would have destroyed. A person with emotional mastery becomes difficult to manipulate because others can no longer pull his strings through praise, criticism, fear, or guilt. He is open, but not unguarded. Strong, but not cruel. Curious, but not easily deceived. He possesses values, yet remains willing to learn. He understands that changing his mind can be a sign of clarity, not defeat. He honors reason without becoming cold. He embraces emotion without becoming enslaved. This balance is the work of a lifetime. You will never reach a point where nothing tests you. As long as you are alive, the world will offer events you did not choose. There will be loss, misunderstanding, unexpected change, conflict, temptation. There will be moments when your personal faith and ethics will be tested by easier, darker choices. There will be people who act outrageously. There will be decisions that seem impossible. There will be sudden crises that disturb your foundation. But each challenge becomes training. Each event asks the same question. Who governs you? The person before you, the fear within you, the wound behind you, the outcome ahead of you, or the reasoned, honorable self you have chosen to cultivate? You may not control the first feeling. You control whether you feed it. You control whether you interpret it as truth. You control whether you place it into speech. You control whether you allow it to become action. You control whether you carry it into tomorrow. This is your power, not domination over the world, governance over yourself. The world may praise a man who conquers cities, builds wealth, or defeats opponents. But what value is victory if he remains terrified of criticism, quick to anger, and helpless before his own impulses? A person may possess everything and still be ruled from within. Another may possess little, yet remain free because his character is not for sale. The greater conquest is internal. To tame fear without losing caution. To tame anger without losing courage. To tame desire without losing passion. To tame pride without losing dignity. To tame attachment without losing love. To tame grief without losing tenderness. This is mastery, not the destruction of emotion. Its transformation. Like fire contained within a lamp, emotion can offer warmth, vision, and direction. Uncontained, the same fire can consume the house. You are both the keeper and the flame. Your discipline is the vessel. Your awareness is the glass. Your reason is the hand that carries the light. Where will you take it? Toward destruction, or toward a life built with intention? You decide through every small response. The next time anger rises, delay. The next time fear predicts doom, examine the evidence. The next time resentment begins replaying old pain, ask whether carrying it serves anything honorable. The next time pride demands the final word, consider whether silence would protect more. The next time anxiety fills the future with disaster, return to the present action. The next time emotion says, "Act now," ask whether wisdom would wait. Not every impulse deserves obedience. Not every thought deserves belief. Not every insult deserves an answer. Not every battle deserves your energy. Not every ending is defeat. Not every change is destruction. Some changes are rescue disguised as loss. Some separation is healing. Some silence is strength. Some delayed decisions save you from years of regret. Some people leave so that your life can become open again. Some failures expose an unsound direction. Some pain sharpens insight. Later you will realize these changes are for the best. But you must persevere long enough to see what they become. This is where hope enters. Not hope that nothing difficult will happen. Hope that difficulty cannot remove your ability to respond with honor. You may not know what the future holds. You can know the kind of person you intend to be when it arrives. Believe and know it within yourself. You can become calmer. You can sharpen judgment. You can create new habits. You can recover from emotional destruction. You can make peace with past decisions without repeating them. You can become strong where you were once disempowered. You can learn to think before you speak. You can govern what once governed you. You can change your mind. You can begin again. This does not require becoming someone entirely different. It requires returning to the part of you that existed beneath fear, reaction, and confusion. The part that values truth, the part that desires honorable action, the part that knows anger is not always courage, the part that understands restraint is not weakness, the part that still dreams of peace, purpose, connection, and personal growth. Attune yourself to that inner voice. It rarely shouts. It speaks beneath the racing thoughts. It says, wait, observe. Do not become what hurt you. Choose the action you can respect tomorrow. This voice is not always comfortable. It may ask you to apologize when pride wants to resist. It may ask you to leave when attachment wants to remain. It may ask you to accept what cannot be repaired. It may ask you to work when fear wants to hide. But every time you follow it, your character becomes more stable. Every act of discipline places another stone in the foundation. Every restrained response strengthens sovereignty. Every honest reflection clears the inner world. Eventually, calm no longer feels like something you occasionally find. It becomes something you carry. Not everywhere without interruption. You are still human. There will be moments of weakness, but calm becomes your direction. When chaos rises, you know how to return. When emotion surges, you know how to observe. When anger speaks, you know how to delay. When fear darkens the road, you know how to take the next step. When resentment offers revenge, you remember that the best revenge is not to become like the person who wounded you. When life refuses your plans, you remember that your power remains over your mind, not outside events. And when you are tempted to believe one emotional moment has destroyed everything, you remember that no storm lasts forever. Clouds move, seasons turn, wounds close, perspective changes. A mind once filled with overall chaos can become clear through effort and repetition. A person once quick to anger can become a source of calm. A fearful person can cultivate courage. A confused person can discover direction. A life shaped by impulsive reactions can be rebuilt through disciplined choices. You are not condemned to remain who you were at your worst. Your most emotional moment is not your entire character. Your mistakes are events, not identity. Your past is a teacher, not a prison. The beginning of mastery is not perfection. It is responsibility. You stop saying, "This is simply who I am." You stop saying, "They made me do it." You stop saying, "I had no choice." You recognize the moments where choice was small, but still present. A pause, a breath, a delayed message, a walk beneath the open sky, a refusal to continue, a decision to return later. Small choices save lives from large destruction. Respect them, practice them, let them become habits. Soon the person who once feared his own emotions begins to trust himself. He knows anger may rise, but it will not automatically become cruelty. He knows fear may appear, but it will not decide his future. He knows sadness may arrive, but it will not erase all meaning. He knows criticism may sting, but it will not define his worth. This trust creates real confidence, not the confidence of believing nothing can hurt you. The confidence of knowing hurt will not make you abandon yourself. That is the calm, powerful resolution of the Stoic path. You do not need to conquer every person. You do not need to refute every opinion. You do not need to win every confrontation. You need to stop losing yourself inside them. Master your emotions before they destroy your life. Not by suppressing them, by understanding them. Not by becoming cold, by becoming clear. Not by refusing to feel. By refusing to surrender your character to every feeling. Let anger become disciplined courage. Let fear become preparation. Let grief become gratitude for what mattered. Let dissatisfaction become effort. Let regret become wisdom. Let confusion become reflection. Let setbacks become training. Let the inner turmoil settle until you can hear reason again. Then choose. Choose with intention. Choose with patience. Choose with honor. Choose the action that creates rather than destroys. Choose the word that you can carry without shame. Choose the boundary that protects peace. Choose the distance that allows healing. Choose the battle worthy of your energy. Choose the dream that fear tried to bury. Choose to govern yourself. The storm outside may continue. People may remain difficult. Events may refuse to unfold according to your plans. But within, something has changed. The gate is guarded, the fire is contained, the mirror is clear. You stand before the mountain of your own nature, no longer asking whether the climb will be easy. You understand that the climb is what makes you strong. Step by step, reaction becomes awareness. Awareness becomes restraint. Restraint becomes discipline. Discipline becomes mastery. And mastery becomes freedom. Stand there for a moment. Breathe. Feel what is rising within you. Do not condemn it. Do not obey it blindly. Observe it. Understand it. Tame it. Then let wisdom decide what happens next. That is where your life is saved. That is where your character is formed. That is where you cease being your own worst enemy. And that is where real power begins.